I want to talk about some of the common patterns that you'll see in the suit. The simplest, of course, is just going to be a solid pattern, which I didn't even bother putting up here. For more of a business suit, you have some things like pinstripe here, bird's eye, which is a nice different change to a solid suit, or window pane here. Glen plaid or Glen check is also nice for a business suit. You can wear a herringbone for business depending on how subtle the herringbone is, but if it's a really aggressive pattern, it's going to be considered a little bit too outrageous for work, depending on where you work, of course. And so it's usually used more for jackets. And then, of course, going even bolder, you've got houndstooth. And then I also wanted to show you what seersucker looks like, just in case you haven't seen it before. So there's lots of different patterns to explore, but this just gives you a good idea of some that you can expect to see on the rack. And the patterns here are going to cover, about 75% of the suit fabrics that you're going to see on the rack. So that should give you a good idea of what to expect. Next, I want to cover special details on your suit. The first thing I want to mention is the double-breasted jacket as an option to the traditional single-breasted jacket. Here are 4 types of double-breasted jackets, each named for the number of buttons it has and the number of buttons that need to be done up or fastened. First, we have the 4-on-1. As you can see, there are 4 buttons. One needs to be fastened. That's where it gets its name from, so it's pretty simple. Moving on, you have the 4-on-2, 4 buttons, 2 being fastened. Next, you have the 6-on-1, 6 buttons with 1 being fastened, the bottom button here. And then you have the 6-on-2, so 6 buttons and 2 being fastened. Again, very, very easy to pick up on the naming there. Generally, when you see a double-breasted jacket, you're going to see it with a peak lapel, as shown here. And you want to look for jackets that are a little bit shorter than a single-breasted jacket. And unlike single-breasted jackets, you leave the double-breasted jacket buttoned up when you sit down. So if you got the single-breasted jacket, of course you're going to undo the buttons when you sit down. And then if you've got the double-breasted, you leave them done up when you sit down. Moving on. Next thing I want to talk about are some of the different options you can get on a suit if you're looking for something a little bit more unusual or something special. First, of course, is going to be a waistcoat or a vest. So you can get the 3-piece suit. The 3-piece suit is considered a little bit more formal than other suits, and you're not going to see them nearly as often on the racks. Depending on which store you go into, you might see anywhere from none to just a few. But that said, pretty much every single label does make a 3-piece suit, and they also are considered appropriate for business. Although, depending on where you work, somebody might think that you're a little hoity-toity if you're wearing a 3-piece suit. One of the smaller details that you might see is the pick stitch on the lapel, which I have here. So you can see how it's stitched with a little pick there. You can see that there's a little bit of a detail on the lapel. The pick stitch has been offered as a hand-finished detail for a long time, and that's what gives it the prestige that it has when it's hand-done. But these days, they have machines that do a pick stitch, so it's just sort of a subtle detail for those who like that sort of detail in their suits. Next, I want to look at sleeve buttons. There are a couple of variations on your typical buttonholes that you should be aware of. First is surgeon cuffs, or working buttonholes, so named because surgeons used to wear suits and needed buttons they could undo for rolling up their sleeves when in surgery, so they could avoid contamination. Working buttonholes have long been associated with bespoke or made-to-measure suits, and I would certainly caution you if you see working buttonholes already on an off-the-rack suit. They make tailoring the sleeve very expensive and difficult if it hasn't been made for you. So unless you are a perfect fit in the suit off the rack, you won't have necessarily quite the right sleeve length, and it's going to be hard to alter it. Some labels, such as Brooks Brothers, do have their suits prepped for working buttonholes if you're looking at having them put in. But for the most part, I would only recommend it for an MTM or bespoke, or when you're working with a tailor that you trust. Or if you're looking at a very casual suit that you're not really concerned about having the perfect fit in the sleeve and it's close enough, then it's okay to get the working buttonholes as well. Another detail you'll occasionally see are kissing buttons, and that's where they overlap, as is shown here. It's called kissing buttons, and it's another one of those handcrafted details that displays the quality of a suit. But like pick stitches, it can now be done by machine. You'll mostly see it on more established labels with a longer tradition of tailoring, who still embrace the old world tailoring techniques. And again, you'll see it on those that want to imitate them and use it as a selling point on their suits. Moving on to some more details. Another outer jacket pocket details. Another the details that you're going to see on suits of different variations on the outer pockets. Most common of these is the ticket pocket, shown here. The ticket pocket, of course, is positioned on the right side of the suit over the other jacket pocket, and it is traditionally designed for putting your theater tickets into for easy access. Another variation you're going to see are the slanted pockets, as shown here. They're also called hacking pockets. These pockets originally are derived from riding jackets, where they allowed easy air access to the pockets while on horseback. And you won't see these very often, but it is a variation that you'll occasionally see. And if you get a suit made, you can have the option of having the pockets slanted, of course. Moving on, I wanted to talk about getting the perfect fit with your suit. Without a doubt, the most important part about the fit of your suit is going to be the shoulder. That's what you really want to focus on when buying a suit. Suits are measured by chest size, so if you haven't been measured yet, you want to make sure that you get measured by an associate in store or tailor to get your chest measurement. But be prepared for a little flexibility in what fits you, because every make has a different approach to their cuts of their suit. When you slip the jacket on and button it up, you want to make sure that the shoulder fits close but not too snug. You don't want there to be a gap where your shoulder ends and the jacket ends, and you can feel that by putting your thumb and forefinger up on the shoulder and seeing if there's a lot of, if the shoulder of the suit hangs over your natural shoulder. But you also don't want the shoulder of the suit to be so tight that there's a dimple at the shoulder because your arms are too big and they're pushing out the shoulder pad and the sleeve of the suit. Next, the collar. The collar should rest against your shirt collar with no gap in between them, and you don't want a fabric roll on the back of the collar, but that can be tailored out just by raising or lowering the collar of the suit. The back of the suit should lay flat without any pulling between your shoulders, and without any extra rolls of fabric at the collar. Under the arms, there can sometimes be extra fabric, and that can be tailored out. So just something you want to be aware of. The lapels of the suit should lay flat against your chest. For some guys with a more pronounced chest who hit the gym a lot, for example, a bodybuilder, there might be a break at the chest where it doesn't lie flat and instead it sort of dimples. This can sometimes be tailored out, although a lot of times you're going to have to look at either a different cut of suit, or you're going to have to be looking at empty made-to-measure to get that fixed, because when you get a made-to-measure suit, you can just have them account for the fact that you've got a larger chest. Next, the waist. The waist of the jacket is usually about 6 inches less than the chest of the jacket. So, the difference is called the drop. For example, if you have a size 40 suit, it measures 40 inches at the chest, and it's a drop 6. That means it will fit 34 inches at the waist. Most guys are about a drop 6, but if you're really athletic, your shoulders and your chest are going to be larger, and your waist will be smaller, which is going to make your drop higher. So when you try on your suit, make sure that the waist feels comfortable, but there's not too much extra fabric at the waist. If you grab the waist button and pull it away from you, there should only be enough room for about a fist or maybe a fist and a half beneath your jacket to fit. You don't want it to be too tight either, so when you have the jacket on, make sure that the waist button isn't pulling too much, and there's not lines of pulling away from the waist button. Next, I want to talk about number 6, sleeve length. Your sleeve length should hit close to your wrist joint and allow for about a 1/4 inch of shirt cuff, a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch if you want to show a little bit more. It helps if you're wearing a proper shirt when you're having the suit tailored, but a good tailor can get it right without a shirt underneath. Make sure both of your sleeves are measured because it's not uncommon for one arm to be longer than the other. Then number 7, I want to talk about jacket length. There's a lot of different ways of measuring jacket length that are thrown around. For example, a lot of guys say that if you let your arms hang down, you should be able to cup your hands underneath the jacket. That doesn't work. It's not true. The most important thing is to make sure that it covers your butt. So, keep it simple. Then there is a little bit of give in how long your jacket can be. Your jacket ideally should cover half of your silhouette. So if you measure the length of your jacket from the collar down to the bottom, and then measure from the bottom of the jacket down to the floor, the two numbers should be ideally close to the same. But beyond that, it is a personal preference. Moving on.